This is the cheapest RTX 4060 gaming PC that you can buy. Starting us off, we have the Ryzen 5 5600. This is one of my favorite value processors because for $70, you are getting 6 cores, 12 threads, great speeds, and a good upright path. There's always a few more specifics to get into, but that's pretty much just the overview. Now we have the Fang Jane DDR4 RAM. This kit is RGB and is 16 gigabytes, locked at 3600 megahertz. Now, what's best is the second and fourth slot here. Click, click. Now, our NVMe is a 1 terabyte from Kingston. This isn't a perfect drive by any means, but for these budget builds, it gets the job done. Now what we're gonna do is line it up like that, and slots right in. Now unfortunately, this motherboard doesn't come with an M.2 screw, and neither did the SSD, but thankfully I have an extra one laying around, so that might become a problem. Anyways, it's nice screwed in, don't screw it in too hard. Now, we have the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Spectrum whatever. Now I went with this cooler because it was only $10. Now I'm going to refer to a manual for this one. So for Cooler Master, you take this bracket and then line it up and screw it in. We're just going to slot this right in. Just match the screw holes, and now just do a little each time. And lastly, the fan. Since it comes out this way, I'm going to have it placed like this. I'm just place the bracket in the little hole. That. And like that. Same for the other side. And I'll snap it back. And boom. Other side, I'm going to do the same thing. So that it looks something like this. We're done with the motherboard. Now prepping the case. First we're going to take our little IO shield. We're going to need this little tool, which didn't come with this case. You can screw and unscrew standoffs. So this motherboard has standoffs here, 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 and then right below. And now just line up this motherboard with the screws. And now we're going to be using these screws for the motherboard. And we're done. Something I did forget to mention was this fan pack right here. These 3 fans with a fan hub and a controller only cost $10. Something I do notice is how these kind of start poking out. They're not perfectly managed, but that might be okay. And voila. Now the fan configuration isn't going to be so nice. Luckily, we do have this ARGB fan hub, which has all the fan ports right here and then all the RGB ports on the other side. So it should make it relatively easy. Now we have all the fans plugged in. Now we need the power. What we do need though is this SATA cable. Plug that in the back of the hub, and then the SATA cable will be used for the power supply. Here we have the Apevia Prestige 80 Plus Gold power supply. This is one of the cheapest 80 Plus Gold power supplies you can buy. But this is regarded as one of those decent power supplies you can actually get on a budget. 600 watts should be plenty for a 4060, and you can actually get away with 500. But first, I'm going to plug in all these case cables that go into the motherboard. Alright, so I rerouted everything into the front. And first thing, we're going to be plugging this USB 3.0, the blue cable, into the biggest slot available, just right down here in the middle. And next, we are going to be doing the front panel connectors. We're kind of going from right to left here. Now, I'm going to put a graph on the screen on how you're supposed to do this, but it actually shows on the motherboard as well. Now we have the USB and HD audio cables. These are pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory where they go. The audio always goes on the very bottom left. And then the USB is usually right next to it, pretty much in the middle of the bottom. HD audio here, USB 3.0, the big one, and then the front panel right next to it. Now, make sure the fan is pointing downwards. I'm gonna start routing these cables as well. make it easier because we don't really have much space here. And this CPU cable goes all the way up here. We have our PCIe cable right here. We're gonna route that in through the bottom. And then all of these extra cables you actually don't need, so we could just tuck those wherever they can fit. And also, don't forget, plug in the SATA from the fan hub, and then we could tuck that all in together. Let's turn this around and plug in each of these cables. The CPU is always in the top left. And then the big boy always goes right over here. Then make sure you hear a little snap in there. Don't press too hard, but you will have to apply some force. And yeah, now I actually have to screw in this power supply. I could have done that already, but the cables I had to make sure fit. Now the whole purpose of the video is this RTX 4060. Pretty small model, but pretty clean, and I got it for a good price, so that is why I bought this specific model. As we fit this in, we don't have to take off the top bracket. So all we need to do, we just need to take off the second and third bracket, as you can see, which requires just pressing it down, and then just give it a bit of a few wiggles, and it just becomes looser and looser, and eventually it just slides off. Now we can slide it right in where it fits. And last thing to do is just plug in the power. Now you will need a USB with Windows installed. That's easy, there's YouTube tutorials on that. Flip the power switch on, and now, the review. Will it turn on? Whenever I spin this fan, there's something that gets caught. It is the cables being all weird, bro. Something I do notice is how these kind of start poking out. They're not perfectly managed, but that might be okay. The cable sticking out just a little bit right there is causing it to rub against the fan blade. Alright, so I rerouted these cables so then it can actually spin. Take two. Oh, I forgot to plug it in. Easy Windows setup. Because it's annoying me so much, turning on a different color. Alright, we got it moving. Boom. There we go. Ultimately, at a little over $500, yeah, this is definitely worth it. Here's my little spreadsheet. Basically, Aliexpress and Newegg are going to be your friends here. And for the GPU, hardware swap, Java, eBay, whatever. This is a somewhat repeatable price. If you're getting a used 4060, then that price is definitely obtainable. If you're aiming for that new or maybe open box like I did, then you might have to wait a little while. But yeah, there's really nothing that could beat this price. But if you're more interested in a 3070, I have a video for that that is very similar to this video. I also sold this on Java for $800.